We are April and Scott, creators of naughtygym.com, and this is The Naughty Gym Show.
For years, we've been fitness and nutrition coaches to thousands of people through our commercial gyms and online platform. We've also spent nearly a decade in an ever-evolving open relationship.
This show brings together two of our biggest passions, fitness and sex positivity. Our mission is to maximize the physical and mental health of anyone brave enough to explore relationship structures that run counter to societal norms.
We have demolished our old ways of thinking about relationships, and from that rubble, built a life full of happiness, adventure, and vitality. And now we want to help you do the same.
So hop on the treadmill, start the show, and let us teach you how to never stop playing.
Welcome to episode, I think, 14. And we've got some friends of ours here from, it's about as far away in the United States as they could be from us, in Oregon. Matt and Cara. Turnkist. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly.
Quiz.
And they are members of Naughty Gym, and Cara is a pelvic floor specialist and a fitness trainer, and I don't know what Matt does.
Matt is also a fitness trainer.
also coach trainer, but mostly I manage a big general population gym.
And they are super cool people who we have never met in person, but we will soon here at our event, Be Better at Being Bad at Hedonism in Jamaica, January 6th through the 13th. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excited to be here.
We had Cara on a couple of times, and she's also done a pelvic floor workshop for our Naughty Gym community, and well, for anybody who wanted to do that. She will also be doing a pelvic floor workshop in Hedo with us in January, and she'll also be on our body image panel with the women when we discuss body image issues and how to overcome them.
And by the way, something we have never said on any of our shows before is if you're listening to this, please click the subscribe button, especially, or click like, because we don't ever say that. And I hear other people on their YouTube and podcast shows
That's what you're supposed to do.
say that. And so I think it really helps the algorithm. So do that if you don't mind, and you'll see all of our stuff pop up in your feed. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is essentially we're going to start hashing out a text message that you and Cara had between yourselves.
Yeah.
Very recently.
Yeah. So Cara and I message back and forth, a lot of times pretty lighthearted stuff, but she had asked me a question kind of about jealousy and flirting and watching Matt engage with someone and kind of how she was feeling. So Cara, would you kind of share that story with us, and we'll just get right into it?
Well, wait a minute. Actually, before we do that, let's talk about real quick, because I think this is always interesting for people. How long have you guys had a type of open relationship? When did it start? Why did it start? Who started it? Just kind of give us a quick Cliff Notes version of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So we've been married for 10 years now. So the trip to Hedo is our 10-year anniversary trip celebration. And we have been open for about 2 years. And I'll tell you that I shared a little bit about this on the Pelvic Floor podcast, but I sort of feel like I've always had it in me to be non-monogamous. I've always kind of seen relationships that way, especially looking through like an evolutionary biology perspective. If you look at the way humans and behave and the way apes behave and whatever, but not, this isn't the Cliff Notes version. Sorry. And so, but I had a vacation with one of my girlfriends, and I remember just something like I had kind of felt like sex was sort of over for me. I had had a baby and my body had changed and my feelings about my body had changed, and I didn't fit into any of my lingerie. So I raged through it out. And then I just went on this vacation with my girlfriend, and we just sort of, it was like some kind of sexual awakening. And I can't really describe exactly what, but there was sunshine and bikinis and lots of attention from men that I just hadn't had. And when I came back, I was just talking with him about how that made me feel and how alive and sexually hungry it made me feel to have been flirted with. And that's what started that conversation between us. And so
you go on a girls trip with no plans beforehand of you're not in an open relationship. You guys haven't said anything like before you left, Matt. You didn't say, "Hey, Cara, feel free to flirt with guys if you want to." It just sort of happened.
No.
And it kind of got a fire started with her. Right? How did you feel when she told you that kind of stuff happened while she was away?
So I can be pretty oblivious, but I've always known that Cara, because I love the shit out of this person, and I'm very interested in her and what kind of like wakes her up and interests her. And I was very kind of entrenched in monogamy. And then like here she's like, she has these books like Sex at Dawn, and she has a master's degree in feminine anthropology. And I'm like, so I'm like learning about all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, there's this whole other world. And so I will be honest, when she went away on that trip, just because it was such a big trip and such a big potential experience away from me, it was really hard. Because I was sort of fearful of, of that sort of expansion of her without me being there.
Sure.
And then which was an amazing, beautiful thing. And then that thing that like part of me feared literally happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was sort of a shock, but it was also like, it was a shock. Like if you had sort of, like you knew, like I kind of knew it was coming. So it was sort of a different thing.
You're kind of prepped for it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and he was in a space for a really long time where it felt like if I gave something to someone else, it would mean less for him. We played around with the idea, and then we were like, okay, we're going to try this. And then he was like, no, I don't think I can. So I was like, that's fine. But then he saw me sort of kind of shut back down in that way. It was like that switch had been turned on.
That was the awful.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. So you come back from the trip, you've had some attention from guys, and tell that story to Matt. And Matt, you were uncomfortable with it, or look, and one of the things that surprised me when we got into non-monogamy or consensual non-monogamy is how many men love, and they may not expect this initially, but they love to see their wife being flirted with, or ultimately even having sex with. Mm-hmm. So but this hasn't been a conversation that you guys had before she went on the trip. So she goes on the trip, gets flirted with, comes back and tells you about it. How did you feel when she's telling you these guys were flirting with me?
So literally, how did I feel in my body?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to say that, like, I want to say before I go into this that, like, I love that now. Now I'm at that place, Scott. Like, I mean, 98% of the time, except for those kind of random times that come up, for which I'm so glad to hear that other folks struggle with that too. Just to, like, why did that bother me? But so that was where I was. But what felt like at the time was because there was kind of this sense of like, because I kind of felt this coming and I knew this was within her, and that like I within myself as a man could not provide this kind of experience, this kind of openness. It was terrifying, and my fucking like guts went out from me. Like it was like,
yeah.
But the weirdest thing, I want to just say that like there was also this relief. So after we had that discussion where I saw her light go out when I said the words, I would prefer to remain monogamous. Can't even say it now. And she was just like, it was just like, and I couldn't abide by it.
You had the conversation. Did you guys, like she said, I would like to be non-monogamous? I mean, you just came out and said that. Mm-hmm. And then you said Matt changed his mind. Did you have a date lined up? Like, what was that first step?
No, we were just sort of talking through what it would be like. And I also didn't really know what it was that I actually wanted.
Yeah.
I thought in the beginning, like, maybe I'm like pretty demisexual, like that I'd want like a boyfriend. And like, I explored that, and that felt pretty threatening, but I hadn't even explored that yet. We were just talking.
We were talking about messaging.
Just talking about like messaging with other people, maybe getting on an app, like what it was just the very like, how would this work? And he's like, I just don't think I could do it. And so I was like, okay. And I think that what happened is that in those first initial conversations, I felt like for like the first time in a relationship that I could show up like completely authentically.
Yeah.
Like I had never shown this part of myself to someone else because I always felt so much shame about it. Like
Yeah.
I even though like intellectually I'd read these books, I believed that humans by nature are non-monogamous and or whatever, at least that could be an option, and that has been an option for our ancestors, right? um I I still felt so much guilt and shame over not being able to be like the right kind of wife, and just like, why do I always need more? Because he's amazing. Like when we get into this conversation, like he is everything. He has this beautiful body, this like amazing dick. He's like he has
Watching
like
that
that's
blush.
just the physical part, but then like he's kind, he cares about my pleasure, he's explorative in sex, like he's just like the package.
Right.
And so then I'm left thinking like, why do I want more? Like what else is it that I want? And oftentimes I get frustrated because I'm like, why can't you do this more like what she's getting with him? Like
Yeah. So it wasn't that you were missing something from your relationship with Matt because
no.
he was meeting all of your needs in that relationship.
Yeah, the relationship itself is so great. It's that I just have this like, it's like I can't describe it besides like it's this desire for variety, and I love connecting with people, and I love letting that connection expand to like deeper like physical or friendships and things like, and it makes sense to me. Like I have really, really close friendships, lots of them,
Yeah.
right? And so why not also have that with people that I share my body with sometimes?
Right.
Yeah.
So what was it? Sorry. What was it that ultimately changed your mind, Matt?
I couldn't see the light. Like, there was no way I could not honor her and be entrenched in my fear.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
That's real good.
no, fuck no. That's not a good, that's just not acceptable.
Right.
So
You've come a long way then in 2 years, right? So where are you? I know everything's so fluid in the lifestyle, like full swap, soft swap, like all these labels. But where are you guys at right now?
We are we're really enjoying swinging. Because we tried like I did some individual dating. We've gone to clubs, like he's done some texting and stuff, and then we can talk. Like I had some issues with jealousy then, ironically, because I was the one that really wanted this, and then it pushed me right up against my like biggest fears.
Yeah.
And so right now, like I really like exploring like all the options. Like I have a partner right now that I consider to be like a partner, like a deep emotional partner. And we've hooked up physically a couple times, but it's not something that will happen very often. It might not happen again, but I'd still consider that like deep connection to be somebody that I love and connect with. And so that's sort of where we are. It is very fluid, and it seems to change often. Like even just preparing for Hito, we've had so many more conversations.
I guess where I'm at now is that I feel more aware of the things that kind of get in my way, and I'm right now, my main practice is giving myself grace for having little reactions and feelings, because if I don't give myself grace and I get into an internal struggle about it, oh Jesus, like God help anybody that's around me, like it's just kill the vibe of everybody around me if I'm just with myself in my head.
I don't know anything about that, Matt.
No, I'm sure you don't. Yeah. So like that's kind of my main practice. I'm having, I mean, just like little things, like as we get prepared for Hito and as we talk to people, like this is just, it's been really fantastic. Like I didn't realize how much these little workouts and getting kind of along the way that, you know, little things will come up. And I'm like, oh, here's an opportunity in a really low stress and pressure situation for me to like kind of look at what's going on here. And it increasingly all this feels increasingly light. And for me, my need to be special, like I have to be special. And so my need to be very special to her is increasingly not tied to sucking and fucking. And that like, and also I'm actually opening up to the potential of my own pleasure instead of being along for the ride and, you know, whatever happens now. It's that, and that feels like really kind of freeing and liberating, and it's a turn on for her, and it's really cool.
Well, and
that need to feel special, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people feel like they'll lose. Like, but if you're giving yourself to other people, then I'm not going to be that special person anymore. You'll have, you know, but you don't lose that.
Well, and it's almost the opposite of that. I know for me, I can only speak for me, but if it wasn't for the fact that I have a partner in my life that for the first time in my life, I feel like I can be 100% who I am. I can say my darkest, most twisted fantasies, and she's either going to say, "Oh, that's sexy," or "Oh my God, you're so weird, but I love you." And I there's no aspect of my life that I have to hide from her, and I know that no matter what I say, she's going to love me because of it, not just despite of it or despite it.
Yeah.
Because I have that incredible confidence in what we have, and I feel complete with her, I then feel the security and safety to be able to give a little piece of myself away to somebody else occasionally. Because I love that feeling of those butterflies, that new relationship energy, connecting with that other person. And that's not scary anymore because I have so much confidence in us. But it would be terrifying. It was terrifying at first.
And still is sometimes.
And still can be, especially when we try something new, like this separate dating we've been talking about trying. But it's because of the confidence that we have in each other, that we can have confidence to give a little of ourselves away to somebody else.
Right. Which doesn't mean that we never feel jealousy or run into issues. Which brings me back to Cara's message. We've got So, would you mind sharing that a little bit about that message?
Sure. So we were thinking about Hito, and I'll tell you that when I think about like swapping type of situations, I get a little bit nervous because of like what I said, like my view of Matt is like, he is just like such a specimen. He's so like, he's so like, he's sensitive, he's kind, he's thoughtful. And, you know, he does all the things that he does that are just amazing. And so I'll just keep talking about it. He's going to turn.
I love it though. But need to hear that. That's words of affirmation.
It is nice. It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
So, and then like my anthropologist brain gets involved. And so I start thinking about like, he is very like standard. He's like the current like body standard in our society, right? And we know that those change. They've changed over all kinds of generations. But I'm thinking about like desirability politics and the difference between what people are going to see when they see me and what people are going to see when they see him. And that in a swapping situation, people are going to be like, I'm here for like the 6-pack abs, but I don't know about all those rolls and curves. And it makes me feel like really nervous and inadequate when I think about it in that way. But I want to be really clear that like, I don't think that I'm ugly. I don't. I believe that I'm attractive. I just wish that our society allowed for more diversity in desirability and like what we see. Like I'd love to see like a fat bachelor or something like something where I am affirmed and like not, and that just doesn't exist right now in a lot of what we see. And so I start feeling myself getting like really clenchy. And then I'm starting to think about like the last swapping experience that we had. So turns out that when we went on this girls' trip, that my friend that I went with also decided to try to open her relationship. And it was a very different reasons and results.
Yeah.
And so she was also our first threesome. So he actually, like, he did pretty well. Like, we decided to open our relationship and we went right into a threesome, and he did okay.
Worked out okay.
He did
Nice job, man.
right.
Amazing girls. I think I need to go to girls trip with Cara.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I remember sitting there in my moo in the living room and we were drinking like peppermint tea and we were looking at each other. It was like, okay, that was okay.
And I was like, did that just happen? It just happened a number of times since that initial time.
So we had this fabulous idea to try to swap. So her and her husband, me and my husband, because we're like we've been really good friends for so long. The threesome worked really well and that was fine. So let's try this. So we're sitting around the table talking about like a date. We finally set a date where we could get childcare and all this stuff. And we're like, okay, so what are you looking forward to the most? And so he and my friend are sitting there like making eyes at each other, talking about like what they want to do to one another. And this dude is like, man, I'm so excited for this steak I'm going to have at this restaurant. And I literally like my whole being just like misfired.
I'd never seen her like that before.
I picked up my purse and I just drove away, and I drove for like 2 hours. Like I was just gone. I'm like, fuck, like I'm out.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. He makes a comment at the table about he's looking forward to steak, and you literally immediately got up and just left.
Yes.
Good for you.
Like, hey, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. And she just got like she was like a maniac.
That's exactly what you should have done.
I was like, I'm literally coming in second best to an actual piece of meat. Like I'm the meat. Like
yeah. Main course here, baby. Main course. Yeah.
So,
have you talked to them? Have you talked to them about this since then?
Oh yeah. We had a whole.
Everyone involved with this person knows exactly what they're thinking, what she's thinking, and that it will be hashed out for sure.
Well, what really struck me was that's not uncommon.
Right.
It happened to me. It's happened to some of my girlfriends. Not that same thing, but a similar thing where you are in this situation and you see your partner being attentive and doting on the other woman, and you're left sitting there talking about insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is wrong with me? And which feeds immediately into our insecurities, right or wrong, that we have. I start going, it's because she's petite or she has shorter hair and he likes pixie. And I start like doing all of the crazy stuff in my head that shouldn't be there, but it just like fuels that fire. And then all of a sudden I am not worthy to be with this person. And I start feeling jealous that Scott is treating her so much better than I'm getting treated. And I'm like, he should be directing that attention at me now. Why does it? So, and he ends up feeling like he did something wrong.
Yes.
And I'm like, you didn't do anything wrong. You were well within the parameters of what we discussed. That was a me issue, but I didn't need you. I needed you.
I do want to interject here, and this may not be taken the right way, but it sounds like for Matt and I, we are just Casanovas.
Right.
Am I...
Right.
Jesus Christ.
That's right. I think you picked up exactly what she was putting down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I understood what you
So we had the same experience the very first time we went to a sex club. So
yes, we did.
We were there and we were like pointing out who we thought was cute, and like some guy approached me and we started talking, and then some girl that he was interested in on the dance floor came up and stood right next to us. And so I was like, hey, my husband thinks you're hot. Like maybe, and so they hit it off. So like, we're going to go to our room. They're going to go to a room. And so we left first and kind of got started. And it turns out like I got with somebody that like only likes missionary, and I like missionary. It's fine. It's, I've had some great orgasms that way. But I'm listening. They ended up in the room right next door, and I'm hearing him ask her ask her like what she likes, what she wants to do. And then I even hearing like, smack, smack, like all the spanking and like and I'm just sitting there in missionary, like
Staring at the ceiling going, God, please finish. Yeah.
I mean, I persevered. I still had a couple orgasms. However, I wasn't happy about them.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I've had some play sessions where, because we've always been same room. So where I look over and I'm like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Because this is so mediocre. And he is railing this girl in every way. Like she is getting the goods.
Yes.
And I'm like, why am I sacrificing myself for this?
Right.
Do you think that happens sometimes? Because I think some guys,
Just kidding.
I think that some guys want to believe that they know what a woman wants without asking the woman what they
And
want.
I think that culturally we believe we're taught that we know what a woman wants.
Yeah.
And it
And
doesn't
I
fucking matter.
Right.
That's what I think.
One of the things I have learned in 8 years or so of this consensual non-monogamy stuff is that not only do I not know what every woman wants, they all want something different. And unless you have long extended, like you can't just say, "Hey, what do you like?" and they give you a list of 3 things. This is going to be a conversation that's going to take a while.
Yeah.
You need to get to a place where you can sit down and be comfortable and have an extended conversation, and don't rush off to get to the bedroom so that you can have an orgasm. Take your time, ask a lot of probing questions, and then ask more questions. And then when you think you've got it figured out, maybe ask a few more, and then maybe you'll do a good job in pleasing that woman when you get to the bedroom. But if you think that you just know how to push somebody's buttons, I'm telling you, everybody is so different.
Do you think men are embarrassed to ask because it may look like they don't know what they're doing?
Well, maybe.
I think so. And I think it's cultural. Like, we it's like it doesn't seem sexy. Like I've heard this conversation like, oh, well, it takes you out of the moment. And I'm like, it is the moment. Like there's nothing sexier to me than somebody who's like, how do you like it? Are you feeling like something more sensual, or do you feel like a little impact play? Like, do you like to be bitten? No. Do you like to be
I do know that
and to have somebody take the time to ask. And I think we've gotten a little bit, because I turns out I like impact play, but by exploring some of those BDSM things, like if you're into BDSM, most people are very fluent at these kinds of conversations, because the whole point is to provide pleasure for that person. And
the BDSM world, and we've learned this, they have a lot of open communication about their play session. And it's very rare that, I don't know that we've ever talked to anybody that would go into a play session without having those conversations. Like it's very vetted to make sure that everyone's safe.
But I think it's important for all guys should know that if you sit down and have a genuine conversation with another woman that you've never had sex with, but that possibility is on the table, and you spend some time asking questions about what they like, you are not going to kill the mood. You're not going to kill the organic nature of what's about to happen. In fact, you're going to heighten it, and you're both going to get yourself super worked up just having those conversations. So even if you feel uncomfortable with it, just commit to having the conversation, and you'll probably, you can come thank me and Matt later.
Yeah. So we were talking on the way here, or when we were driving, because Scott's a good flirt. He's a good conversationalist, and he asks very probing questions, very good, thoughtful questions, and so it makes you feel special because he's talking to you. And so he said, am I just good at flirting and some guys aren't? And maybe that's the case, but I would rather a guy say, I'm really nervous right now.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, that's totally cool. I can lead with some questions then. But if you just come out talking about insurance and steak, I'm going to be like, fuck this guy. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
I'd be like, blah 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 blah. I'd be like, fuck off. Like,
Right.
you know.
Like, I would much rather a guy just be honest and be like, look, I'm super nervous right now. Like,
Yes.
okay, we
Yeah.
can go from there.
Well,
That's
being transparent like that about
Yes.
feelings, even if you're being transparent about being insecure,
Yeah.
is engaging. It is it will draw people in. You don't have to be the coolest guy in the room.
Well, and Scott said this to me before when we've been in situations where I'm like, I just don't think that guy's into me. And he's like, well, I think he's intimidated by you. And I'm like, okay, but so he's not going to talk to me? Does he think he's going to fuck me later? Like, that's not how this works.
Right.
Like, he's going to have to speak to me at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I follow John Romanello on Instagram. I know him from fitness. But he people ask him all the time, like, what's the best way to do this or to do that? And he's every time he's like, you ask.
Yeah.
You ask them what they like. You ask like there's no one way to give a perfect blowjob besides asking the person exactly what they want and then doing the things that feel comfortable for you from that list.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you feel about this, Scott, but I can appreciate the things that I know and I can draw from my experience, but I basically enter any kind of situation. I mean, I find a lot of novelty with her because like all the context changes a lot. And so like, I'm always trying to be open-minded and kind of service oriented. And then I find that in my experience in the 2 years that we've been doing that, that's worked out really fucking well for me. And there's a difference between being like present and service oriented and being performative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because for me, there's like, it's like oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That happens to me if I get into like, I'm expected to do this.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think
that's no good.
Mm-mm.
I think for everybody, men and women alike, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this, there is nothing hotter than feeling like you're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not, there's nothing
For
wrong.
your partner, right? Not like putting on a good show.
Well, right. That's what I mean. I'm saying that if the person that you are with in that moment is having a good time,
Yeah.
it's so empowering to feel like, all right, good for me. I've helped them have a pleasurable experience. You will have so much more success if you just have those conversations going into those moments, because not every woman likes to be fingered, but some love it. Not every woman likes anal. Some love it. Not every woman likes...
Me and Cara in 2024.
You do not love anal yet. You just want to.
I said it's 2024 goals.
Yet. Listen,
Let's 2024.
That's right. There you go. It's going down. I think you might have a chance tonight, Scott.
All right, so Cara, I want to ask you, because when I read the initial text message exchange between you guys, I like, well, she's your mirror image, and you guys think exactly like. When you're at a party or an event or something, it's a lifestyle consensual non-monogamy party. Do you feel any hesitancy to flirt with other men?
Sure. Yeah. Like we've been talking about that a lot. Like I'm still, when I'm with him, I'm very aware of like, is he doing okay? Is he going to react to something that I'm doing? Is, like, so because when we've been together, most of our interactions have been with like me and another woman or two other women or what, like he's only seen me have sex with another man one time.
Scott smirking.
And so he's like, it's real rough for him out.
I know.
It's really,
God bless you, Matt.
So I've had some individual experiences, but ironically, if he were to have those kind of individual experiences, I would really struggle, or I do really struggle when those things kind of start. And so there's a bit of a thing right now where it feels sort of awkward that there's like asymmetry in our relationship. Where he'll say like, it's okay, like I'm comfortable with it, so you go do the thing. But I become very aware especially in like a swapping kind of situation, or like if he's watching me begin like the flirt with somebody, where I can be very aware of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll ask you, and it'll be because I'm interested to hear your answer and see if it is similar to her answer. And kudos to Matt because he's stronger than I am, obviously, but I don't like the asymmetry. Now, I understand that it's not necessarily a bad thing, that some people like Matt can be okay with you going on a separate date or whatever, and you not being okay with him going on a separate date. And that's fine if that's fulfilling for both of you. And we've been experimenting or wanting to experiment with separate dating. And we both said, that's okay. You go, I'll go. We'll both do our things. But where it comes up, the asymmetry for us is I would love to watch her I do love to watch her at a party, just flip the switch with no regard to me. Just go around the room and flirt with whoever you want to. Have fun. I'll be here when you get back. That's the part, and you stop me if I'm wrong about this, but that's the part that makes her the most uncomfortable. It's not seeing me have sex with somebody.
Right.
It's seeing me put my arms around them, whisper in their ear, kiss them.
Well, and I think we've discussed this before, because when I am flirting with somebody in the way that he flirts with somebody, it's typically because I have the intention of, I want to take this further. That's not necessarily his intention, though. He just likes to flirt. And so I'm always hyper aware of the message that I'm sending somebody else, where I don't want to mislead them, and obviously it's not my responsibility what anybody else feels, but I always feel protective of other people. Like, I don't want them to feel like I'm misleading them or, trying to take this further than I'm actually trying to take it. And so I do refrain a lot, and hold myself back a lot from the flirting with other men because of that.
And I always feel like you hold back a little bit because you're afraid that if you just start flirting randomly with people at the party and just letting go, that will then in turn give me permission to do the same thing, and that's not something you're comfortable with.
Probably.
Is that part of it?
Probably.
That's a great point. There have been times where I get kind of overwhelmed when I've sort of explored solo interact. I haven't gone on a solo date, but like it's not so much. I mean, what she feels is really important, and like her level of comfort when it comes to me solo dating certainly informs my decision to do so. But the other thing that informs my decision to do so is just that, like, I have kind of a sensitive nervous system, and I don't really like it becomes a challenge to figure out how to interact with women that are not Cara, but yet are not just like women at the gym or casual friends or something. I'm just like, God, it's like, it feels like I'm overthinking this and it's no longer fun. And so in the times that I've tried to do something like that, it's as much because of my own experience as it is because of some kind of asymmetrical like rule thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's very kind of him. But
also further, like, part of that restraint is also because like it's aspects of this have been challenging for me. And so like if I do something, and especially if I'm afraid that she's going to do something almost not in retribution, but in order to sort of feel as validated or whatever, that is a threat to me. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Scott, in the context of April. I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
But I want to speak to another part of it, which is that like I have some major dad issues. Like, I grew up super close to my dad up until adulthood. And about 6 years ago, my dad and I got in like our only fight, where I spoke up for myself and told him how I felt about something. And he has never spoken to me since. Not my entire family. He hasn't had nothing to do with my children, nothing. And so I spent like years feeling like men will surprise you and leave in a drop of a hat, no matter how much like history and equity you have with them. So I have so much fear of him doing that sometime that it's like like, I could watch him have sex with other women all day and it turns me on so much. But seeing him engage in a relationship with somebody else feels so threatening, I think, because of the healing that I'm doing right now with my dad. And
Yeah.
like, and I'll
It
say, like,
feels more intimate than just sex,
right.
right?
I understand that too.
And like,
Yeah.
I want him, like, I want us to develop close friendships with people that we also fuck. I really do. And and so navigating that, but also like finding ways to continue to communicate so we feel safe. That's where a lot of the asymmetry comes from. So I know he says he has his thing, which kind of makes it feel more comfortable for him, but he also like has seen my pain and he
Mhm.
loves the shit out of me. And I think that there is a part of him that sort of just can't do anything that he knows is going to hurt me. So when he sees me have a freak out or get sort of tight, like he really he struggles to sort of to continue. It's not fun, right? It's like,
Right.
it's not fun if it's
Yeah.
hurting your
Right,
partner.
because it's not, it no longer, the importance is just, it's not even close.
It's no longer about the two of you,
No.
right? You
And so I
continue.
feel like we're constantly like dancing this line between like interdependence and codependence there, right? Because there's a wound there that's not his fault, that
Right.
I am healing and is my responsibility.
Right.
But it's also like, I also don't think that it's the healthiest thing in a relationship, which we see a lot in poly, which is like, you need to handle your own shit and you need to like hunker down and fix it yourself. Don't let anybody else get involved. And that's just not how we operate. We are interdependent, but I know that there's times when like I shut things down because of my pain that
Sure.
probably like I feel like I shouldn't have.
Well, I think that's a great point. I think the more dependent I have become on her, this is going to sound so stupid. The more dependent, the more I can count on my dependency to her, the less dependent I am on her. Like,
Yeah.
I know that at any moment, under any circumstances, no matter what, she's my safety net.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I can take risks.
Yep.
Now, sometimes I take too big a risk because of that, and she has to pull me back in a little bit. But it is not that I'm ever out there trying to replace something I don't currently have. It's that I have everything I could ever want, and that gives me the courage, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but the freedom and courage to go out and do things that most people just don't feel like they can do. But it is because I'm so comfortably dependent on her that I can be independent of her.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That doesn't sound stupid at all, Scott. Like that really rings true to me as well. Because the more we've gotten into this, the more open I have become in, like feeling more calm as he's exploring. Because the other
Yeah.
part of it is that if he's always shutting things down because of my reaction, then I develop this like distrust of like, what do you really want? Like, I don't
Oh
know.
my God. Yes.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
and and he's like, I just want you to be okay.
Yeah,
And
I'm kind of open to whatever. And she's like, no, but what do you fucking want? And I'm like,
So we've had similar conversations because we all have a history. We all have our trauma points and things that kind of cause visceral reactions, whether we want them to or not.
Mhm.
But I think that's kind of the beauty of the non-monogamous journey is you kind of get to heal through that kind of stuff together.
Yeah.
right. It's a context in which to do that
And
stuff. I keep
so
telling her about that and thanking her for that.
I don't want to see him flirt with another woman. Right now, I'm okay with that. And I told him, I'm like, because I feel like
You're okay with what?
not seeing you flirt. Like, I don't feel like I need to right now actively do the work to be okay with that. That's not my goal. My goal is not to be okay watching him flirt and be intimate with women. Eventually, maybe one day that will happen because we are doing the work. but it's not something that is like an end goal. It's not like on my list of things I need to accomplish.
Did you ask, was that in the podcast with Shannon where you what Dr. Chavez, where you asked that, is like, should it be my goal to have no jealousy? Should it?
Right.
And you know, we talked about the relationship escalator, and I really appreciated that point, because I like, even I had this like, okay, I'm here where I'm like monogamous, and then there's like this, I've got to get to here, and anything that isn't me being like, you know, totally okay with whatever she does and seeing everything or whatever, that I'm somehow failing. That was the narrative that I started with. I was like, as soon as we got into non-monogamy, I was like, okay, how am I going to fail at this? we're going to get into...
Right. Well, and I can be a bit of a perfectionist. So I'm like, I'm a rule follower when it comes to like, okay, what are the rules? I'm going to do it all and I'm going to win. I'm going to excel at this. And so when she was like, the end goal is not, you don't have to feel compersion. And I'm like, it like gave me permission to just be present. I'm going to experience each new thing that we do. And I'm going to allow myself to feel the jealousy and wrestle with it myself and wrestle with it with him and have those conversations and know that that's a normal fucking feeling. It's normal to feel jealousy when you see your partner being intimate in a way that makes you uncomfortable. And that's okay. Maybe it is, I have dad issues too. Maybe it's from my dad issues. I can also explore those at the same time. And so it just feels so good to be able to feel that and simmer in those feelings sometimes. And sometimes we take a break from play so that we can deal with that. And sometimes we push into it or lean into it. And that's what I love about this, is that we can feel jealousy and we can feel compersion and we can feel all of the things at the same time. And that's okay.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, we really have over the past, I don't know, year or so, not played very much, kind of basically with just one couple. And that break though, and in that year, was also when this idea of potentially doing the thing that we said we would never do, which is separate dating, came up. And it was, for me, I think it was easier for her at that time. She didn't really have as many insecurities about that as I did. I didn't love the idea at first, but we talked through it, tried to do it. It didn't really work out. But now there's been some time since we sort of went through that initial process, and then we've just sort of let it simmer. And over the course of the past 2 or 3 months, letting it simmer like that, just calm down, stop talking about it all the time. Don't worry about it. We're not going to do it right now. You know, we're busy. I don't think I really have near as many issues with it as I did before. And I don't think I did any, at least intentional work.
Right. You didn't do a worksheet. You didn't do it. You didn't fill out.
Right. It's just
doing this. It just seems to, and you have to kind of get some rest from it.
I can relate to this. So when I remember in the beginning, we were both just kind of trying to tell each other like who we might find attractive or something like that. So he would tell me he told me like one person, and then like the next day I'm like 5 years into her Instagram. Like, who is this?
Her bushes.
Like a month or two goes by, so he's like, whoa, like, okay, I'm not gonna talk to her, like, wait, I'm like, and like, but then, like a couple months goes by and I'm like, hey, why don't you like see how like so and so's going, you know, doing, like, have you seen her post?
Right, she's sending me like posts of her, and I'm like, I don't know,
because I just
I'm not looking at that shit.
I had like the time to process.
Yes.
And now I know, like, when it kind of, that wave comes, like, you start to like, it is like training a muscle, right? Like, you just get like, you have that like progressive overload happening. Like, okay, I started with just learning the movement.
Yeah.
And now I'm adding a little bit of weight. And then I'll add some more reps. And like, so like, it just kind of like, it has gotten a lot easier, and you learn to lean into the jealousy. Like, I think it's been one of the best lessons. And I definitely heard that when on your podcast with Dr. Chavez, but like, you lean into it. You don't try to escape that feeling. And that's how it is with so many things, right? Like you can't just like go around the mountain. You have
Right.
to like you you have to like go over it. And so nobody's gonna see that you ran away.
I did the thing that bubbled into my being. And
that will show up on the YouTube version. Yeah.
If you want to see all of Matt's antics, you better watch this on YouTube and like and subscribe.
Yeah. So that's great.
But it's a physical expression, because like when I feel that feeling, I'm like, oh my God, that's an awful feeling. And it's just because I haven't evolved as a human. And like, I've got to fight this, and we go to battle or we run away, which is what I did there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's not necessarily, look, when you're faced with one of these novel news situations, and you have feelings come up, whether it's jealousies, insecurities, whatever it is. I don't think that's necessarily an indication that that thing is inherently bad, whatever that situation is.
I'm learning.
It might be bad in that moment, and you should probably step away from it right then. But don't let that fool you into thinking that because it's not an acceptable thing now, it will never be acceptable. Right. Because there's so many things in this journey that we said early on, we will never do this, we will never do that. And then the next time we go to a party, that's the very thing we do in love.
Yeah.
You know, just let the emotions happen in the moment, and do the thing that you need to do to protect yourself in that moment, whether that's get away from it, take a break, whatever it is. And then talk through it later on. And maybe 6 months later, even though you may not have talked about it again, you might feel very different about that thing.
I feel so grateful to be in this community because of the context in which we have to confront these things that hold us back in other areas of our lives. And just for me, at least, even internally, like there's been discomfort going in this direction, but the amount of internal freedom, I mean, despite the amazing thing that it's, the way that it honors where she's at, that it's just, I think we're really, really lucky. And I think that there's just like a really cool opportunity to grow. So of course, I mean, maybe some things will always be the same, but like, of course I think we should expect ourselves to grow, but also give ourselves grace to take the time that it takes.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's made me a better person in my external relationships, like outside of non-monogamy, like my work relationship, my friendships, my my relationship with my children. Like it's made me a better communicator and more empathetic and compassionate, in listening to their struggles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
you can't be successful and happy in the lifestyle, in a world of consensual non-monogamy, without learning the tools necessary to communicate effectively and to navigate problems. Problems are going to come up. They're going to come up. It's going to happen. I don't care how much preparatory work you do, how many scenarios you discuss beforehand. Things are going to come up that you didn't expect. And when you learn to, like you say, Matt, give grace to not only other people, but yourself, that stuff spills over into every aspect of your life. You learn to do that in business. You learn to do that with just regular old vanilla friends or the waitress at the restaurant. And, that's one of the things that I think is a huge benefit to consensual non-monogamy. It may not be the only way of gaining those skills, but it can certainly expedite it.
Yeah.
When you combine that with the pursuit of pleasure, I think it's like maybe for some of us, it's one of the best ways to learn, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you that like having so many open, honest conversations with him through this journey, like I've talked to a lot of my vanilla friends who are like, I've never had a conversation with my partner in the, 20 years we've been married about what we like. We just sort of do the same thing we did when we were in high school. Like you can have these same kinds of conversations, even if you're not having sex with other people outside your relationship, and it can really deepen. Like we've done more freaky shit in the last 2 years with each other than we ever did in the first 8 years of our marriage. Like where was this really good bed? I'm like, wait.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. Something that was an insecurity of mine now that has become a tool for learning. But this will sound scary. Like if you're somebody that is looking to maybe start exploring consensual non-monogamy and you're a man, I can promise you now that there's going to come a day that another man pleasures your wife in a way that you didn't know she liked or that you didn't have the skill to do. And it's going to cause feelings. And it's happened to me. And what you're going to, if you'll approach it in the right way, you're going, there's a new tool for my tool bag, not, she likes this guy better than me.
Yes.
Or,
she literally been like, I was thinking about Hito, and I said, so if I start to feel clenchy, one thing that will come up to me is I will get way more comparative. And there could be a time where I hope that she has like these amazing opportunities for pleasure outside of pleasure with me, and that she gets those. And I need to remember that those are not a threat to me, that those are add-ons, that there's opportunities for us to learn. And it's hard for me to even wrap around my mind around that could happen to me too. Like
right.
I it's even weird to say it out loud, but that could happen to me. And even then I need to not feel guilty about that and instead be like that could be an addition, but yet still be conscious of her feelings, the potential reaction and all that.
Like we've talked about.
You probably don't want to look at her and go, hey, baby, that woman was way better at giving head than you. You need to take lessons. That's not the way to approach that, I don't think.
Yeah. No. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about stuff that like I'm not ready to do yet with him, but like he might have an opportunity to do those things with other people, and that shouldn't take anything away from me. And you know, but there's still like a thought process. And you know, I am a Virgo and I'm Italian, and so I keep track of things, and so I'm trying to like let go of like the tally sheet, and you know.
Yeah. I'm not a Virgo, but I am Italian.
I don't know what any of that means. You freaky horoscope people. I don't know what any of that stuff means. I'm a Leo. That probably means I'm great in bed, I'm guessing.
I'm just proud you know you're a Leo.
You're great in bed, and you're oblivious to the star signs and astrology. That's
right. Yeah. I'm an idiot. But...
And don't ask him about his Enneagram.
Oh my gosh.
My idiot-gram?
No.
Yeah. That's
okay. Well, guys, we this is probably a great time. We've been talking for about an hour, and I think we could talk for 3.
I hope to.
And we will.
Yes.
Soon.
Oh, I can't wait to see.
They're going to have lots of time in Hito where they're just not doing anything, and they're just hanging around the pool. We'll be like, "Hey guys, come on, get moving, doing stuff to be." This is.
Yeah, that's we're so excited about this event because we get to host it and we get to set everything up, and it's been a lot of work, but it's been fun. It's thrilling for us to get to host it. The one fear that we have, and we've tried to set everything up and logistically set things so we have some time to interact with people and enjoy our own event. But that's the fear we have, is that we're not going to get a chance to talk to the wonderful people like you guys. That
we're going to have time to talk to them.
We'll just give you our ring number and you just come knock on the door. And, hey, we're here.
Yes.
Oh. Well, all right. Well, listen, thank you so much for being, open and telling us about your life and sharing. I think people will get a lot of benefit out of hearing that while this is an incredibly fulfilling lifestyle to lead, it's not always easy, and it's a struggle for all of us. But if you're in a solid relationship and willing to do the work, it can be incredibly fulfilling. So thank you so much for being so kind.
Thank you for creating this community. I'm really grateful to be in community with you all.
It was really awesome to speak to you tonight.
Well, we'll see you guys here in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yes?
About 2 weeks.
Something like that. In the warm sand of Jamaica.
Yes.
Can't wait.